Hi there. I'm playing through this game called Ghost of a Tale. It's mostly an exploration puzzle game, and I just discovered a really cool puzzle in it, which I wanted to share. Now, this will contain spoilers for this puzzle, obviously, but the game's about 5 years old, and it was crowdfunded, so I think everything about the game has kind of been out there in the open for a while now. The premise is pretty simple. You play as this handsome little mouse fellow who is attempting to save his wife after the both of them were thrown in prison by an evil baron. Hopefully you can see everything okay. I'll put on the light. So, for this particular puzzle, we want to go around to 9 obelisks that are in this far tower area, and we want to light them up using the candlestick in a particular order. And that order is given to us through a document that describes an ancient battle that took place. And I'm not going to go into detail about that because the lore and history of this world are a big part of the draw. But if you read the inscriptions on each of them, you can see things like Hareth, incorruptible, the emerald flame could not assail him. The emerald flame being a pretty big deal in the history of this world. So when you first come into this area, you'll probably come into it from one of those bridges in the southeast, and you definitely won't find this obelisk. So what happens if you try to light this up? The wind extinguishes the candles. The dead are watching, you whisper. The candles flicker and die. The wind is a warning to honor the dead in the order that they fell. So when I first found this area, and when I first found these obelisks, I just went around trying to light them up in whatever order I could. However, because you can only access that top area, you can see there's if I point my cursor downwards, you can see that there is a squiggly black line that separates the upper level from this lower level. You can only access the first 4 of the obelisks on that upper level, and there's a particular event you need to do in order to get access to the northern slopes, which are down a cliff. You can't jump down; it's too far. You'll take damage. Rather, you'll die actually. So, how do you solve all of this? How do you piece all this together? Well, Ghost of a Tale is a really well-made game, and it's made by people who actually understand things like literacy and fun and logic. So, instead of just giving you the puzzle and giving you the solution, they give you a couple of hints. And I really want you to think, before we get into this, what's the last time you found a puzzle, a real genuine puzzle in a video game, that actually required you to think? Honor the dead. Too many fell here in the Clarion's defense, the names of all but 9 forever lost to memory, death, and time. By those 9 names may the sacrifices of all be known, and let these candles burn eternal in their stead. And should some ill wind snuff them out, may it be upon the conscience of all good creatures to see these candles lit once more in the solemn order that our 9 heroes fell. And then it goes through the names. Yoth fell first, here at the forest's gate. Then did Uli the archer, looking north toward his home. Hythe was taken next before Canlan, southwest of the Clarion, fell. And then it goes into people who were lost on the northern slopes. You'll see, those 4 names are given to you very directly. So, when I first came into this area, I brute forced it just to see what those 4 obelisks did, because I thought that, this is a video game. I light up the candles and a thing opens, right? Well, the first part of this puzzle can be brute forced, but the second does require observation and literacy. And I'll go through that in order once I light the candles in order, because I actually busted out a pen and paper, and I got all the thinking done ahead of time. So I'll guide you through that now. Let's begin by going to the first obelisk that you will encounter. When you first come into this area, you can see I would have entered it from that bridge to the east of me, about there, which is there. I found this chest, and it was locked. I did not have the key. And this inscription gets your mind thinking. Yoth, or Yothi, she fought and fell with grace. Sorry, I'm Germanic, rather I'm English, which is Germanic if you go back far enough. So whenever I see an E at the end of a name, I want to pronounce it. I think it's probably more like Yoth, though. Regardless, this is the first one. Yeah, and the first time that I did that, I did not get that little quest indicator. I simply saw the candle light up, and that was it. And if we refer to the book again, I'm going to trigger this bear trap. Yoth, Uli, Hythe, Kenlan. So it's east, north, northeast, southwest. So let's go and do all that. The guards in this game are not terribly threatening, but I don't want to be chased by one, so... Here lies Uli, his faithful bow at his side. Here's number 3. Hythe, a poet at heart, a warrior by circumstance, spared the torment of the emerald fire by his love's merciful blade. That particular description is actually a hint or a clue for something that happens elsewhere, which is part of what leads into this quest in the first place. So not only is the puzzle itself asking you to pay attention to the world and notice things, but the description itself for each individual obelisk is somewhat relevant. Basically, there was a little moment earlier in the game where somebody was asking about the identities of these people, and you could only discern the correct identity from looking around at these obelisks on the northern or on the upper plane. However, in that particular case, you also had a couple of incorrect answers that you were capable of giving, which related to other parts of the history of the world. And I have to say, I really appreciate that, because part of the thing that defines being good at something, in this case literacy, is being able to distinguish incorrect information from correct information. Kenlan, no creature braver nor more humble. So this was about as far as I got when I first brute forced it, and I expected something to happen. However, as I later learned, there were more than 4 of these. So now I'm going to go to the northern slopes, the entrance to that is northeast. So then I'm going to walk you through the significantly more complicated process of figuring out the correct order for the northern slope obelisks. And there we go. Now there's another guard in here. Okay, he's down below, good. And here are the northern slopes. There is an obelisk. There are 2 obelisks just to the north and east of me. There's one... Please stop getting hung up on the geometry. There are 2 obelisks to the north and east of me. There's one to the west. There's one to the... And there are 2 up to the northwest. Blank was lost on the northern slopes, beneath the bridge in the shade of her beloved oak tree. H fell in sight of Valia's plain and the light of the setting sun. The 2 sisters fought and died together, Wendy first, beneath the arches, and Blank just below her. Blank went alone, the last before the clarion's call. So, that's a bit tough, but I believe I've puzzled it out. So, I don't know the name of it, but the next one is Beneath the Bridge in the Shade of an Oak Tree. This is not it. This is Theol, it says, steadfast at her sister's side in battle and in death. And you remember the sisters fell together, and they were the penultimate and antepenultimate. That is the second last and third last. So I believe the one that is in the shade of an oak tree is around here to the side. And this is a pretty obscure place. However, here is a tree. Now I don't see any acorns near it, so I don't know if it's an oak tree specifically. Klin, unyielding like the oak, gentle like the willow. See, that's nice. So that confirms what I thought earlier, which is this is the next one. There are acorns as items you can find in the game just lying around. So hypothetically, I think there may have been an acorn here to really cement that it was an oak tree. Sorry, the northeast of me. You have the 2 sisters, because they fell together, and then you have the northwest. Neither one of them is underneath a tree like this, so it must be this one. Deductive reasoning. The next one, number 6, is inside of the Valia plain and in the light of the setting sun. Now the sun sets in the west, so that means the westernmost of these obelisks is going to be the one that we care about. It's not that one at the top of the southern slope or the elevated area, so it must be this one all the way to the west of the northern slopes. So let's go there. There it is. So this is where I started the video. As you can see, it looks very different in daylight. And this is Harith, incorruptible. The emerald flame could not assail him. Now, when I first came upon this obelisk, as I was exploring this area, going through it on my way to and from other areas, I thought this was the last one. And if this was a bad video game, it would have been, because that inscription sounds pretty final. The emerald flame could not assail him. Well, could not assail him, so that means he was not defeated by it, right? So he was either the last to fall, or he was the one who defeated the emerald flame. Well, as we know from the history of this world, Harith was not the one who actually defeated the emerald flame itself. That was a character named Duinlan. D-U-I-N-L-A-N. Duinlan, or Duinlan. Sounds kind of like the word dwindling. And that character, he's the one who defeated it. So, it can't be Harith, but Harith is in the light of the setting sun, and this is the west, so if the sun were setting, he'd see it. Second point, it says he was in view of Valia Plain. He fell inside of Valia's plain in the light of the setting sun. That's kind of strange, because this is not a plain, this is a lake. Well, this is Lake Valia, it's named that. And when you begin the game, you just know that you're in Dwindling Heights, Duinlan Heights, and that is on the edge of Lake Valia. Lake is kind of a misnomer, it's a gigantic inland sea. Throughout the game, you've been talking to people about the history and the lore of this world, and great heroes and everything. And they have mentioned, the ancient history says that Valia was actually a plain reaching out forever, because the lake is actually so big that the inner reaches of it are completely unnavigable and covered by fog. So from context, we know that Valia used to be a plain, or it was said to be a plain, and this is the full view of it, or the westernmost, so this is the light of the setting sun. From here, it gets to be pretty simple, simply because of process of elimination. The only ones left are the sisters, which are there far to the east, and this other one, which is in the north. So we know that the sisters fell before the final one, so let's go to the sisters. And of those sisters, one was named Wendy, one was named Thiel, and Wendy fell first, beneath the arch, and then Thiel fell beneath Wendy. So this is the lower of the two. We saw earlier that it's Thiel. So then we would go up to the higher one, which I believe is here. Yes, in fact, I haven't even gotten to this one yet. Blank, sister to Thiel, comrade to all. That's another little detail about the way this game presents information. It requires you to cross-reference things with other pieces of information. So if you just looked at the obelisks and the inscriptions on them, you would not know the name of this. You would know that it is the sister to Thiel, and you would know that Thiel was also a woman. However, you'd have to look at the book, which you were given as part of the quest, to see that this one is named, or this person is named Wendy, this woman is named Wendy. Or Wenda, but I think it's Wendy. And if you were to look simply at the obelisk descriptions, or obelisk inscriptions themselves, you wouldn't have like a hint that each one of these points to the next one. It requires you to look outside just what's in front of you. And now there's only one left, which is going to be up to the far north. Sildarant, a wit as sharp as any sword. And this character is not named by the person who gives you the quest. It is not, he's not named by the person who... Actually, I've never seen this person's name come up at all. It wasn't even one of the wrong answers that you could give earlier. Yeah, and we actually don't even know if he's a man or a woman, so we can't cross-reference and determine the identity of Sildarant here. Although I have to say the name sounds pretty masculine to me. I'm gonna blank this stuff out because it's a spoiler, but there you have it. That was a success. So my reward for doing that was I got one of these blue flame lanterns. And this is very nice to have because throughout this game, illumination has been something that you've had to care about quite a lot. Now at the very beginning you can find a lantern and a candlestick, and the lantern only uses oil, and the candlestick can light things, but it requires individual candlesticks. And there are infinite sources of lantern oil and candlesticks in the game, but it's still something you have to manage. So my reward for doing all of this, especially using fire and light and everything, is that I get this bottomless, forever-lasting flame, which is both appropriate given the person that gave this to me, and an appropriate reward for the context I had to go through in order to make it this far. You can't just solve this puzzle by brute forcing it and bashing your head against it. So in conclusion, I really liked this quest, I liked this puzzle, I liked this reward, and I like this game. Ghost of a Tale, T-A-L-E, as in story. You should check it out. Earlier on this channel, like a year and a half ago, quite a while ago, I did a review for a then upcoming game called Crypt Custodian. I played through the demo and I shared my thoughts. That game was a top-down Metroidvania. Well, I don't really like to call it a Metroidvania, but it was a top-down exploration game with some action. The combat was honestly kind of mushy and really not impressive, but there were a couple points in the demo where I was solving puzzles, and I felt that that was the most compelling thing about the game. So when I played it, and there were basically no puzzles at all, and there were only one or two that actually stimulated me, I was pretty disappointed. There was one area, like a snowy area, that was focused on having throwing snowballs and having them bounce off of the sides of things, and have that be the way you would solve puzzles. But that was one area in a game that was like 20-ish hours, and I have to say it really became a slog. I went to the developers' Discord and I asked them about their philosophy of puzzles versus action combat, and they appreciated my feedback, but sadly, in my view, they said they were going to focus on action rather than puzzles for future games. So Ghost of a Tale is a rare example of a game that knows what it's trying to be, because there is basically no combat in this game. Combat in this game is like you throw a stick to distract the guard. Earlier, I was in a cave, and I fought a spider, and I threw a bottle at it, and it walked onto a bear trap. That's combat in this game. Because you're a little mouse. You're just a little guy. You can't fight spiders, or rat guards, or basically anything, so it makes sense. I've also played a lot of modern video games where the puzzles are not really puzzles so much as they are a sequence of events that starts as soon as you see it and ends as soon as you would finish it. In the elevated area, there were 4 obelisks. Each one of them was very plainly spelled out. But I only encountered that elevated area the first time I came here. In fact, the first time I came here to the far tower, I entered from that southernmost of the 2 bridges, the one the green cursor's pointing at all the way in the south. And I looked around for a bit. I thought that I was in over my head, so I turned around and I left. Then I came back a little while later. I was exploring it, I was picking up stuff. I was looking for mushrooms, actually, for a different quest. And I noticed there were these obelisks. And I tried to light one, and the wind blew out my candle, and I realized there was something deeper going on with this obelisk. Then, as I had fully explored the area and picked up every mushroom, I had found all of the obelisks and all of the names. But I still had no idea what I was supposed to do with them, and I had not gotten this book yet. So I was able to brute force the first 4 of them because I found the starting one, and then it was a pretty simple process of elimination. The starting one, try one, find if it works, and then it's a 50-50. And as soon as you know 3, you know what the 4th is. And nothing happened. I had to come back through here several times, seeing those obelisks and wondering what they were for, before I was actually allowed to solve this puzzle. Even after I unlocked this area, the northern slopes, it's not possible to brute force this. There's not enough context in the environment to figure it out and to figure out what you're supposed to do. Because you can imagine running around on the elevated slope, or the elevated area takes like, what, 3 or 4 minutes just to run around and set all the obelisks alight. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 obelisks in the northern slope area. And so you're going to be wrong 80% of the time. And each time you're wrong, you have to go back and reset 4 of them. And even if you got it correct, or when you get it correct, you would still have 4 of them. And you don't know that the sisters are important and together. So once you have this note, you understand that there are actually really only 8 of them. Like only 8 individual spots, because the sisters are basically together. But without that, you don't know that. So I don't want to say like cryptography or anything, but it's a really smart exercise and a really smart example in how to share information with the player and how to hide information in order to make a better experience. This is in direct contrast to what most video games do these days, which is bombard you with every piece of information you could ever possibly want, and then tell you 5 times what you have to do. Ghost of a Tale is a game about figuring things out at your own pace and just exploring the world and having fun with it. Honestly, it succeeds for a lot of the reasons that Hollow Knight also succeeded, and I think the only thing that really prevents this game from being a truly great exploration game is the fact you can't place map markers. Anyway, that was it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe. More Guilty Gear stuff coming. This was just something I wanted to record on a whim because I felt really rewarding for having figured it out. See you in the new year. And make sure you like and subscribe. If you don't, the mouse will be sad. And you wouldn't want that, would you?